In this episode, Michael Knowles debates 25 pro-LGBTQIA+ individuals, and the argument that he creates is simple. There is no such thing as same-sex marriage.
My first claim is that there is no such thing as same-sex marriage. Wow.
Nice to meet
The
you.
dude in the pink shirt is like, come on, bro, man up.
So your claim, what's the underlying philosophy of your claim?
Well, I guess the underlying historical part of my claim is that everyone for all of history everywhere until, and I'm being generous, 2001, agreed with my view that there's no such thing as same-sex marriage. So it seems to me that marriage intrinsically requires sexual difference. And furthermore, I think that any claim that marriage could be redefined to include same-sex marriage would render the term marriage incomprehensible.
Would you say that this is based off of natural law and how Thomas Aquinas defines natural law?
There's a good natural law argument for it, but I think it's based on more than that.
It's more than that.
Based on anthropology.
But then would you say that marriage is a set of legal rights or is it a social role?
I think marriage is an institution. I think it's the fundamental political institution. I think, getting back to classical philosophy,
Of course.
that man is fundamentally a social animal. So, I think at the bedrock of politics is the unit of the family, and, of course, intrinsic to the family is marriage.
But all of those, especially with natural law, is just an assertion without evidence to back that claim, in that we see marriage over time in various cultures has been different things.
In which cultures would you say you see same-sex marriage?
I did not say same-sex marriage particularly, but the role of it when it comes
Well, that's
to
the
family,
point.
when it comes
Listen, that is his argument. His argument is that there is no such thing as same-sex marriage. And really what Michael is getting at is the fact that, just because legally today a person can get married, it's still not validated based upon absolute truth and or the scriptures. The Bible is the first place where we see the significance of marriage. The Bible tells us this in Genesis 2:24. It says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." A man, meaning a male, shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to a woman, his wife. And so two men getting married is not a marriage. That's a mess. And two women getting married is not a marriage. That is a mess. Watch.
the conditions. Because would you also say that if somebody is lawfully married, especially in the eyes of the church, they cannot be divorced and then married again?
Well, I oppose divorce and remarriage, but I'm making a more modest claim than that. I'm just saying that at its core, marriage necessarily involves two different sexes.
But how would you prove that? Because all of natural law is just this assertion. I can just as easily say the opposite, in that marriage is a set of legal rights.
You keep bringing up natural law. I'm actually speaking even more basically. I love natural law, but I'm speaking even more basically than that. It seems to me that the only way that marriage could have a meaning is if it involves different sexes.
But once again, you're defining that meaning. But marriage essentially is a set of rights conferred from two spouses when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to the rights of the children, when it comes to a number of about 1,100 federal and state rights.
Okay, then what you're getting at is interesting and might help us move forward. How would you define marriage?
I would say marriage is a legal contract between individuals when it comes to a set of property laws, when it comes to family law, when it comes to children, and many other rights that are conferred. And we do see that those rights have been conferred to members of the same sex. And so to say that same-sex marriage does not exist is not true because we see it.
Well, you say that marriage entails rights pertaining to children. Well, two men cannot create a child.
But
two
neither
women
can
cannot
infertile
create
couples. And neither can, there are a number of couples that cannot have children.
Sure, so infertility sometimes occurs, and that's
And
unfortunate.
so does gay marriage.
Well, no, gay marriage cannot occur. I guess.
But you're asserting that without proof. We see that it does happen in that
No,
the
it
word
doesn't.
that we mean marriage
You
and
could
the legal rights.
You could say that there's such a thing as a square ball. You could say that, but a
you're
square ball
asserting that
doesn't
it's a
really exist.
contradiction. Would you agree that people have been lawfully wedded in the eyes of the government, and those two parties are members of the same sex?
No, I'm saying that isn't possible. So laws can assert all
But you're
sorts of crazy
asserting
things.
that without
well,
proof.
like the law could say that a black person isn't a human being. But that wouldn't be true. That wouldn't make it true.
But once again, when we get into this Aristotelian view of the world, that's an
Now,
assertion.
there was a time where blacks were labeled as 3/5 human, which was very cruel and very demonic and evil. But Michael makes a valid point. You're not supposed to do that. It's not a wholesome thing to do. It's not a righteous thing to do. It's a corrupt ideology for one person to have. Watch.
Up Aristotle. I don't know. I'm not bringing up Aristotle.
Well, what do you say
I like Aristotle.
that Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, in the traditional view of the magisterium of the Catholic Church, are a view that you use to base your worldview off of?
I am Catholic, but marriage actually even predates the church. So I guess my view is your definition of marriage seems to get a little muddled. You say it's a legal arrangement of family, but to say that marriage is a legal arrangement pertaining to family is circular. Of course, it's a legal arrangement pertaining to family. I'm saying what is it? When you say it's an arrangement that pertains to children, you say, well, okay, now we're getting closer because only a man and a woman can produce a child in principle. Now, of course, some couples are infertile, but just because a human being, let's say, loses an arm doesn't mean that human beings only have one arm or might have three arms. We're discussing what the component.
And that necessary component doesn't come from anywhere.
No. Well, I'll give you my definition of marriage.
Absolutely.
I think marriage is a lifelong union between a man and a woman ordered toward the procreation and education of children and as a secondary matter for the mutual support of the spouses.
Well, once again, when we say ordered towards, is to look at the world with these preconceived notions about things.
I'm not preconceiving anything. I'm just observing nature as it is. No, I'm just observing nature, and I'm saying that that's what marriage is.
But if we're observing nature, we see that there are same-sex couples. So if we go, we are observing.
No, I'm not saying there can't be same-sex couples. I'm just saying there can't be same-sex marriage.
Are there?
Yes, we do see same-sex couples, but there aren't same-sex marriages because a same-sex marriage is not honorable. The Bible tells us in Hebrews 13, verse 4, it says, let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous. And so therefore, same-sex marriage is not honorable. This is Michael's point, that same-sex marriage isn't real. Watch.
That have entered into a legal contract that the state recognizes as a marriage.
Sometimes the state gets things wrong, as I am arguing.
But is that a yes? Is that a yes? That there are couples of the same sex that have been wedded in the eyes of the state?
Since 2015, the U.S. government pretends that two men can be married to each other.
That's right. Pretends. The guy doesn't like that. He's like,
no, I'm basing it off of the Obergefell.
Yes.
They're pretending.
They are pretending.
If two men can marry.
It's a fairy tale.
No, according to the Supreme Court in the Obergefell decision.
We keep using pretend as if things exist outside of the institutions that we make.
I'm just saying the word has a meaning, and I gave you a very clear definition of what I think it means and what statistically everyone for all of human history everywhere has thought it means.
That's right.
And you've given me this kind of jumbled description that keeps contradicting itself.
Yeah.
And that's my whole point, is I think it is not possible to define marriage. I have nothing against two fellas.
According to who?
Prove me wrong.
Prove you wrong? Once again, are there couples in the U.S. that have entered into a covenant that society views as marriage?
Well, some people in society view it as marriage, but many do not.
But you're the ones conferring rights to society.
You gotta love it.
I don't think that the government dictates reality. I think that if the government came out and passed a law and said that human beings are people with 3 heads and 17 arms and octopus tentacles, and so we decree the U.S. government, that wouldn't make it true.
But who defines marriage?
He asked the question, who defines marriage? The Bible did. Proverbs 18:22 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. When a person chooses to enter into the phony world of a same-sex marriage, you do not receive favor from God. Matter of fact, God calls it abominable, and you will incur the wrath and the judgment of God. Watch.
That was easy. You got it. How's it going?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. So I am not in this politics world. To be honest, all I know about you is your name is Michael, and you don't marry your cousins.
I don't.
Which is great.
I don't. I avoid
Okay.
this.
So I was taking some notes here on my handy dandy notebook.
Okay.
You're making a lot of appeals to things, appeal to nature, appeal to the dictionary, appeal to the past.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
Anthropology.
I feel like what you're ultimately appealing to is Michael's idea of marriage. And that's fine, right? But
I'm appealing to everyone else's idea of marriage for all of history.
Well, so here's the thing. Haven't there, before, I don't get sidetracked here, but briefly to respond to that, weren't there other ideas in the past that were bad?
Well, there are plenty of ideas in the past that have been bad and discarded. There are very few ideas that have existed everywhere for all of history and continue to exist today, albeit in a slightly different form, that are bad.
So,
right?
but why am I supposed to care that people have believed something for a long time?
Well, because often things that have endured forever everywhere do so because they work or they have some tethering to reality. but in this case,
in terms of reality, I'm glad you mentioned the word reality, because in terms of reality, I'm gay married. Ooh, right? Like, we live in a society where, if you look at polling data, society seems to be okay with gay marriage. And so if you personally don't want to get gay married, you don't have to. But shouldn't we? I mean, I'm thinking, like, what is the point of this conversation? Because
you're not really married. You have a relationship with a man,
I understand
but you're not really married.
I understand that you think that, and that's fine. But
it's true.
Structure, because what's the point of this conversation, right? Like, I was kind of falling asleep through all, like, the Plato and Socrates and
I didn't bring it up. That was the other guy. That wasn't me.
I know, and we'll agree on that. Okay, there's the agreement for the thumbnail. All right. But like, the point of this conversation,
I can make it very practical for you.
That we're deciding how we should conduct ourselves.
Yes,
right?
I can make it very practical for you. Children do very poorly when they are raised by two men or by two women. Relative.
Preach! Listen, did you hear that? It is true. Children do very poorly when they are robbed of both parents, i.e., parents, male and female, because same-sex couples and same-sex marriages do not produce parents. Just because you are taking care of a child doesn't mean that you are a quote-unquote parent. Now, when you look at this argument that this gentleman is trying to point out, Michael is getting ready to destroy him and remind him that, hey, man, it's best that children be born to their parents, and that their parents have the responsibility of rearing them, raising them, teaching them, and training them. We should end this madness of allowing same-sex couples to enter into same-sex marriages and then go to adoption agencies and adopt children. We are defrauding these children. We are robbing these children of a normal and healthy upbringing, and this kind of madness is why we see the mess that's going on in our culture in the first place. And you oftentimes see where the predatory relationship that the same-sex couple has entered into begins to spill over into the children. It's wrong, and we should fight against it. Watch.
That's not true.
What literature are you referring to?
Unfortunately, I was not able to bring notes here. If you look it up afterwards.
I don't have notes either, but I'll tell you.
You can read.
Hold on one second. Pause. Okay. Bro, you weren't able to bring notes. What is he holding? Like, no. What is in your hand? You are holding a notebook. See, this whole, man, sin will make you stupid. Like, stupid. You are holding a notepad and you're saying that you are not allowed to bring in notes. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Help this guy out, man. God forbid. God forbid. Watch.
Okay, but we're getting off of my point here, and I don't like it.
You don't have one.
I think it's
so.
You don't have a point.
And you want to avoid.
We're just
going
to talk over each other. No one's going to understand anything. You talk so much more than me. You're the hero. Let me talk. Come on,
you're the hero.
So
you're the hero.
Avoid the point I'm making, which probably is
look
good
at that
for
dude back
the
there.
argument.
Okay, if it's good for me, I'm going to do it. So, we need. The point of this conversation is we're deciding ultimately, like, what should our laws be, right? If we live in a plutocratic society.
Plutocratic?
Well, it shouldn't be plutocratic.
Hold on. Do y'all want to go to Pluto? How do you get to Pluto? Oh, my goodness. Listen, Elon Musk, are you going to take us to Pluto? He meant pluralistic. Yeah. All right, y'all. Okay. Let's give the guy a break. Plutocratic, that's the new word. I'm gonna get a shirt that says plutocratic. Come with me, and we're going to have same-sex marriage in a plutocratic way. Watch.
Oh, pluralistic. Thank you. See, I'm not a media guy. I'm just a guy. Why am I here?
That's a good question. Why are you here?
Michael. So we live in a pluralistic society.
Yeah.
And we should have our laws allow people to live the way they want insofar as we're not impeding on other people's liberties or harming others, right? To my understanding,
So what about the right of a kid to have his natural mother and father? Because when the rubber meets the road in gay marriage,
Right.
it's not just two people living together. You could always do that. It's not two people doing those things you guys do, that you could always do that. It's the ability to adopt children, and in some cases, acquire children by going to the baby store and purchasing the eggs of one woman, renting the womb of another woman,
True.
and raising children, depriving them intentionally of their
So-
natural mothers, and that's very wrong.
So here's
and
the
that
thing,
does infringe
Michael.
on the rights of kids.
I understand that you believe that.
And all the scientific literature, by the way, backs that up.
That's not true.
It is true.
Fact check that, please.
It is true. The
Let's let them fact check that on the video.
I'm happy
and
to
progress with the
I'm happy to fact
conversation.
check it for you right now.
No.
The study that you're referring to is the Michael Rosenfeld study out of Stanford in 2010, and it said that kids
okay.
raised in gay households did just as well in
It's
school as the
not
other
a
kids.
study.
And it was a major study.
No,
but it was
okay,
wrong. It had a
but
major
let me-
methodological error, and it's
I
been
would love
corrected
to-
by multiple
I
other
would
studies.
love to engage with you on that in a
Would
sec.
you? Would you?
Yes, in a sec.
I think you
my,
would not
my,
like to
my
engage on that.
point is, the majority of people in society are okay with these things.
No,
And
they're not.
Society's laws should reflect what the majority of people are okay with.
The
And if
majority
you-
of people were okay with slavery for much of the 19th century. So should society's laws just reflect that?
Wait, so now things that happen in the past are bad?
Some things that happen in the past
Okay,
are bad,
thank you
some
for
things are
admitting
good.
that. Okay.
But some things are good.
But the thing
and
is,
some
is
things that are happening now are very bad too, and they're contrary to reason.
The problem is that slavery is bad. Gay
Right.
marriage, gay adoption, things like that are not bad.
They are bad.
They are bad.
And gay marriage is non-existent, and gay adoption is bad.
Then how am I gay married if it doesn't exist?
You're not.
You live in a fairy
I
tale.
have an existential crisis after this.
You should.
You're not. People
Can you
have all.
guys see me?
Yeah.
Can you guys see me?
You
Am I
exist.
here?
You exist, but gay marriage does not exist.
Okay.
And gay adoption is very bad for the kids. I'm not even knocking the guys who want to do it. I understand there's a natural longing to have kids, and homosexuals in a same-sex union can't create kids, which is part of the reason why it's not marriage. But it's still bad for the kids.
Okay. Well, I thank you for correcting me on the word plutocratic. I otherwise completely disagree with everything you said.
All right. Well,
And I think most people do too, and that's why
I
the
don't know.
laws don't reflect your opinions on this.
most people around the world agree with what I said.
All right, guys.
All right.
That's it for this claim. Please return
All
to
right.
your seat.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. Is Michael Knowles right or wrong? Is he weak or is he strong? Now, there are going to be some people who says that, love is love and people should be allowed to marry who they want to. And how dare you, Pastor John and Michael Knowles, say that same-sex marriage isn't real? We know what love is. Well, let me tell you what the Bible says about love. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7 says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. There it is. Homosexuals want to have their own way and get married. It is not irritable or resentful. There's a bit of animus and jealousy that homosexuals have had for a long time because, even prior to this fairy tale of same-sex marriage, that individuals who were heterosexual could get married. But they resented the fact that they could because they wanted to, even though they were living in an unholy and ungodly lifestyle. The Bible says it does not rejoice at wrongdoing. So same-sex marriage is evil. It's corrupt. But it rejoices in the carnality and the wickedness that it dwells in. The Bible also says, but rejoices with the truth. It celebrates when it is confronted. All right? Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Do me a big favor, smash the like button, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you, and God bless America. And stick around for some more content.